Hello there, my name's Ian, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, once again, my friend from Immersive Audio Album, Jonathan Cornell, is joining us. And today, we're going to talk about something which I hope becomes a regular feature on the channel. It was suggested by one of our commenters on another video. And we are going to talk about all of the releases, either currently this month, of the month of September, as well as the upcoming month, October 2025. And hopefully, if there's a good response to this, we're going to hopefully try to do this every month and create a comprehensive as possible list. Now, both of us are multi-channel heads. So Quad, 5.1, Dolby Atmos. So a lot of these releases that we're going to be interested in are centered around. In fact, I think all of these releases are going to be centered around at least one multi-channel mix. So with that caveat, let's get started. Jonathan, thanks for joining me again. How you doing today?
Doing good, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So we're going to start by talking about, retrospectively, we're going to talk about the month of September and many of these releases, and we're going to tell you, where you can see them. Either I or Jonathan have reviewed, either on my channel or Jonathan's, the website that you work for, immersiveaudioalbum.com. Up first on September 5th, we had David Byrne with this album, Who is the Sky? So why don't you tell me a little bit about this album?
This is David Byrne's latest solo record. I believe his last album, American Utopia, was released, I think, like 6 or 7 years ago. It's been a while since he's had a new album out. Of course, you had COVID in there, so it makes sense.
Right.
But so this album was mixed in Atmos and released on streaming services, but we were able to license it for IAA to release it as a digital download. So if you get the IAA download, it's an MKV file with the true HD audio. So it's essentially the same audio you would get if they were to release a Blu-ray of this record, which, as far as I know, there are no plans to do that. But I figured I'd bring it up because, I'm sure there's a lot of like Talking Heads fans watching. And it is a great surround mix. As you know, in David Byrne's music, there tends to be a lot of layers and things. And there's definitely full use of all speakers in this. So I definitely recommend it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I do love the Talking Heads, the 80s albums, but the later David Byrne stuff is a bit of a blind spot for me. But I did see that the Criterion Collection is putting out the American Utopia film.
Yeah. And there's also, there was an American Utopia like Broadway thing too, right?
Oh,
there was
wow.
there was a whole kind of multimedia thing around that record.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, I think he's about to, take to the road touring this new material. So that'll be really cool. Yeah.
That's great. It's so great to see him active at this stage in his career.
And he sounds great. His voice on this record is the same as it always was.
The same as it ever was.
Ever was. Yep.
So real quick, because I think we do have a couple other IAA exclusives to talk about. Do you want to explain to people how they play back these files?
Yeah, so essentially the signal chain to play them back is the same as it is for a Blu-ray. So you're playing the Blu-ray disc on a player, and then the true HD audio is being sent as a bit stream over an HDMI cable, and then it gets decoded inside your AVR, or if you're using like a sound bar or something, and it gets decoded inside the processor and interpreted as many speakers as you have. So if you have a 512 setup or a 514, 714, the processor just kind of figures out what you have and it arranges the spatial objects accordingly. So the difference with these files is you're just starting with a file instead of a Blu-ray. So some Blu-ray players have a USB input, so you could just load these files onto a USB stick, and then you can navigate, in the player's GUI and just play them back that way. But what I recommend is there's this little box you can buy on Amazon called the Numi Atom Player. And I think you picked one up, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. It is very simple. It's $40 or $50. It's a little dongle that has a HDMI connection on one side and a USB input. So you could load a bunch of music files onto it, and you plug this thing into your receiver as if it's like a Apple TV or a Blu-ray player or whatever kind of HDMI device you have. It has a very simple menu where you can just sort of look through and load up the files. And from there on, the experience is kind of analogous to having a Blu-ray.
Terrific. Yeah, and I did buy one, and I'm going to put a link to the Amazon the product page so that folks at home, if they're interested, they can purchase one. My only suggestion is that if your receiver has the option to run source direct,
Yes,
that's the best way to run them, because sometimes the you say Numi, is that how you pronounce it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Neumi. Sometimes it will send things to the wrong spot. Like I noticed, like when I was listening to certain mixes, it was sending things through the heights that shouldn't really be there. And
Maybe you had like one of the up mixing things engaged on your receiver, like it has like
something like that. Yeah.
they
So
have a thing called like Dolby Pro Logic or Pro Logic 2X where it'll try to like decode on top of it. The purpose
right,
of those things is really to unwrap a stereo mix into like a sort of faux surround.
right.
But yeah, and it's important that the biggest thing is you have to send the audio as a bit stream. That's the only way to get the real Atmos. Otherwise, it'll just interpret it as 7.1 or 5.1.
Right.
Which, if you have an older receiver that doesn't support Atmos, you could still listen to this as a sort of folded down 5.1 or 7.1. It still sounds good, I think.
Yeah. And I've mentioned this before, but that is kind of the beauty of the Dolby Atmos technology, is that
exactly.
It's just you can play it on anything. You can play it on two speakers. You can listen to it binaurally. It's not like a quad or 5.1 setup where you have to have a specific setup of speakers. It can be anything from 2 speakers to 30 or more.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So we're going to move on to September 12th. And this is the Grateful Dead's Blues for Allah. Which we won't talk about this too much because you and I and Cody Brockway talked about it for about an hour on my channel, and you can watch that now. But this was my first Grateful Dead release, and it's a fantastic mix from Steven Wilson.
Yeah, I love it. So check out that video if you haven't already.
Absolutely. And moving on to, this is the same day we had Phil Collins, his third solo record, No Jacket Required. Now, I didn't buy this, but you reviewed it for immersiveaudioalbum.com.
Yes, I did.
So tell us a little bit about this mix.
Well, it's also a Steven Wilson mix. I thought it was funny that these were released on the same day because this could not be more different than Blues for Allah.
Sure.
But I think, a lot of people kind of rag on this album because it's the one that has Sussudio on it. But I think he did a great job mixing this record. I mean, it's an 80s album, so there's a lot of like synths and chorused guitars and a lot of backing vocals. There's no shortage of things to spread around the room. And it's a very active mix. Like in the song Sussudio, there's a part where the horns literally like move around the room, jumping from speaker to speaker. Yeah, I think it's really cool. And I think if, you haven't heard this record in a long time, it seems like this was kind of inescapable in the 80s. I mean, I couldn't tell you because I wasn't there.
Right.
But I think it's one of those records where people are kind of like, oh, remember that? I think this mix kind of gives it a new lease on life. And the other thing I'll say about it is, much like with Blues for Allah, I would say the low end is much improved in these mixes than in the original. I have the original 80s CD of this album. I mean, my dad bought it when it was new in the 80s, and it sounds pretty thin in comparison to the stereo 5.1 Atmos remixes on here. So I would say, check out my review if you want more of a play-by-play on exactly how each element is placed in every song. But I mean, I think it's great that Rhino is doing these standalone Blu-rays and that this isn't in a box set or an expensive reissue. It's just a $20 single disc Blu-ray, and it sounds great.
Oh, so is it a Rhino store exclusive, or can you get this just about anywhere?
Oh, you can get this anywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on like import CDs. It's not like Blues for Allah where there's a limited number and it's only in the Rhino store.
Well, gee, for $20, I might take a chance on it. Also on the 12th of September, we had Foreigner 4. I know nothing about this record. Did you review this?
No, I haven't reviewed it. So I'm surprised you've really never heard like the hits on this record. I've
heard like, the hits, of course.
It's got Jukebox Hero. It's got Waiting for a Girl Like You, which is, it's a meme, that song. But so I don't have the new reissue. So just to give people a little background, they did a new Atmos mix of this record, but about 20 years ago, give or take, there was a 5.1 edition of it. that was released on DVD. So that I do have. And the 5.1 mix, which is not on this reissue, unfortunately, it would have been nice if they could put it on because it's out of print. The 5.1 mix was really cool and very active. The new Atmos mix, I listened to a little bit of it on streaming. And with streaming, there is some loss of, general sound fidelity. But my first impression was I thought it was not as impressive as the old Atmos mix. But maybe people, as the old 5.1 mix. But perhaps people will disagree. It'd be interesting, in the comments if anyone has heard this and would like to, say what they thought of the Atmos mix.
Right. And again, this is an example of an album that, there is a multi-channel mix, but it's a box set. So for those of you who are watching who maybe don't have Atmos or are thinking about getting into it, there's other material here for you to enjoy.
I think there's also a stereo remix on there, which there was not on the DVD. I think the DVD, they just mixed it for 5.1, and there was a remaster of the 80s stereo version. But, as I'm going to say a lot on this video, even if it's not music I particularly love, it's great that there are more of these physical releases. This could just as easily have been a streaming only Atmos mix.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the goals of the channel, is to keep physical media alive. I think it's so important, not just for quality purposes, because I don't think streaming comes close to the quality of physical media, not yet anyway, but just to have a library, to have something to sit and look at while you're listening, to immerse yourself. We talk about immersive audio, but immersion can also be reading the liner notes or looking at the photos or listening to the outtakes or whatever is involved. So yeah, I'm a big fan of these kind of book style sets. This is very similar to what Jethro Tull do. Actually my Foreigner record is the first. So if they did
do you have the DVD of the first album? Because it was done for Surround years ago.
I didn't know that.
I can't really reach it at the moment, but it's on the shelf behind me. But yeah, cool. There was a 5.1 mix of it done in the early 2000s. That's pretty cool. It was mixed by the same guy who did this one.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you're looking on eBay or Discogs or whatever, I would recommend seeking that out.
Cool. Good to know. All right. Now, my viewers will be familiar with this one. Where is it? Because I reviewed it recently. And this is the Hall of the Mountain Grill box set from Hawkwind. Now, I won't talk about this too much because, again, I did a review of it. But this features groundbreaking use of stem separation technology to demix the original stereo master and convert it into 5.1 surround sound. And the audio wizard behind this work is Stephen W. Taylor, the always dependable Stephen W. Taylor. And as I said in my review, which you can see on the channel, I think that he made the album sound better than ever. It's not perfect. I still wish that the multi-track tapes had been available, of course, but what he did with what he had is very impressive. Now, you also get 3 shows with this, and they're early 74 shows. So I believe you get one with Bob Calvert, who is the singer for Space Ritual album. And then the other 2 are American shows with Nick Turner singing lead. And he's much punkier. And so it kind of gives this album this material it feels like it's almost from the later 70s, not the mid 70s. And it's a fun listen. Now, there's also a multi-channel mix of the Cleveland 1974 show, which is really exciting. Cleveland is basically, a stone's throw from where I live. So it's they did a multi-channel mix from somewhere where I've actually been. That's really cool. So yeah, if you love Hawkwind, if you love this album, I do recommend it. And so the live material is fantastic. Just
for clarity, so the studio album was demixed from a stereo source, but the live show is from a multi-track. The 5.1 version. Okay.
All 3 live shows were mixed from the multi-tracks, but only one is presented in 5.1 surround sound.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And this is also this is in keeping with previous box sets where I think Taylor mixed a live show for the Do Re Mi box set.
Yeah, there's that Greasy Truckers thing that's on the Do Re Mi set. Yeah.
And I think there might be another 5.1 mix on the Space Ritual box set. So
I mean, I'm crossing my fingers perhaps for an eventual standalone, like for Space Ritual.
mhm,
Because I'm like a sort of Hawkwind neophyte. Like I just had before these started coming out, I have the ones that Steven Wilson did. So I have the Warrior and the Edge of Time DVD audio. I think that was like a 3-disc set, and I have the Days of the Underground box, which I thought was a good value because it has 3 albums on it mixed in
right.
5.1. And I have the Space Ritual standalone Blu-ray. So it would be
Yeah.
cool if they want to do more standalones of these ones in the box sets.
I certainly hope so, because like I think I would have rather bought a standalone, but still, like I enjoyed hearing the concerts.
Yeah, so like if they did the standalone, who knows if it would have the concerts on it? Maybe it would just have the 5.1 of the studio record. So yeah,
right.
And I'm sure they do a great job. You know, I'm sure there's like a book in there with liner notes and pictures and the master tapes and things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great presentation. It's a little bit expensive, especially since it's an import. But this label always does good. This label always does good work. This is Cherry Red Records, Esoteric, as well as the band's own label, which is Atomhenge. So let's talk about. Okay, this was September 19th, which is actually the date of recording. Also, September 19th is this box set from Phil Manzanera and Andy Mackay. And I don't know who the Thompson is. That another person from Roxy Music?
I don't think so, but as most people know, Phil Manzanera was the lead guitarist in Roxy Music, and Andy Mackay was the saxophone player. Correct. Right. So you and I were just talking about this briefly before. Like neither of us know anything about this record, but it's coming out on Blu-ray with an Atmos mix 2-disc set. So I think that's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, more physical release is always a good thing.
Yeah, and I would definitely like to see more Roxy Music related releases on physical media. We got Avalon a couple years ago. Actually, no, it was this year. We got Avalon this year from Super Deluxe Edition.
And on streaming services over the summer, they dropped like Brian Ferry's almost his entire solo catalog mixed in Atmos by Bob Clearmountain. I listened to some of those like Boys and Girls, Bet Noir. They sound amazing. So it would be really cool if they could do Blu-rays of those eventually.
Yeah, Bob Clearmountain's the man. And you'll hear from him again on this list. He's got at least one other.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, who mixed this one in particular?
That I don't know offhand, actually.
Yeah, I was going to look it up, but yeah, and again, like I just opened this release up on Amazon, and it's $30. So you can't beat that. If you are a Roxy Music fan, you'll probably enjoy this, I'm guessing. So I mean, I'm guessing I would enjoy it. But here's one that's of particular interest to my subscribers. And this comes out September 26th, and there's a lot of chatter about this release. And
September 26th is like its third release date, right? This is the time it's really coming out because it's been moved back a couple times.
It's been moved back a couple times, but I saw a couple other channels have reviewed it, like Barry Robinson's classic album review showed it, and Phil Aston did it as a members only video. So it exists, and I saw that Stephen W. Taylor posted his copy. He's not the one doing the mixing here.
He said he mixed like a live show for it in stereo.
Right. And this is Bob McKenzie doing the Atmos work. And so what do I want to say about this box set? It's already being kind of widely criticized. Number one, because it's taken so long to come out. Number two, some people are unhappy because there's not a stereo remix included. Now, my position on this is that for the last 20 years, this has been the standard version of it on streaming. And this is a remix by Nick Davis, and it's pretty universally derided, very loudly so.
So I didn't know that. So that's interesting. So So as people probably know watching this video, Nick Davis remixed the entire Genesis catalog in stereo and 5.1 in like 2006 or 2007. Something like that. And They were released on these box sets that have the American versions have DVDs and the European ones have SACDs.
Yes.
But so I didn't know. So if you go to listen to The Lamb on Spotify, the default version is the 2007 remix.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah, that's correct. And fans have loudly complained about this for years. So I'm thinking that who's ever in charge of compiling this box set thought, well, they didn't like the last remix we did. Let's give them the original mix. Now, the original mix has not been available since 1994 on a release that purported to be the definitive edition. I sold my copy of that because it's got a lot of harsh noise reduction, and it's kind of like high-endy.
So I know you've done reviews of a couple of these, that Analog Productions has been doing stereo SACDs of a couple. So I was just going to ask, did they get to this one yet?
Yes. This was the second one they did. And this was mastered by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grunman Mastering. And I did an in-depth review of this on my channel. This sounds fantastic. This is the best sounding version of this album available. But it's basically not available outside of the United States. And to my ear, at least the streaming samples that have come out, the pre-release samples, to my ear, the 2025 master that's on this upcoming set sounds very similar to this SACD edition. It's not Chris Bellman, it's somebody else.
It's possible they use the same tape transfer, just different master.
Right.
I mean, that tape is old. I can't imagine they just want to keep playing it over and over for different remasters. They probably did one capture at, like 192K or something, and that's the version that gets sent out to different mastering houses.
My thoughts exactly. So that's kind of, to me, that's the selling point of this set. If you are unhappy with the 2007 remixes by Nick Davis, the main selling point here is that you do get the original mix in print for the first time in almost 20 years. Now, the other controversial part of this set is that there is a Shrine Auditorium performance of the complete album, and it was mixed in the early 90s for a live box set. And for that mix, Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett overdubbed vocal and guitar parts, respectively, in the 90s. So you are going to get a 1974 performance with those 90s overdubs on them. And some fans are justifiably upset that it's not a real live album. Adding even further weird complications to this situation, we have new mixes of the encores from Stephen W. Taylor that use the original stems. And it's just like I'm scratching my chin thinking, why didn't they just have Stephen do the whole show? Because that people would have been so much happier with that. But, I'm not the one making these choices. I'm sure there's a lot of other things going on.
The whole trend of like modern overdubs on old stuff never seems to make people happy.
Right.
In the 90s, they released this Jethro Tull collection called Nightcap that I'm sure you're familiar with, where it's a bunch of older recordings. Like it has that like Chateau Disaster recordings that were made during the Passion Play record, and they have all kinds of like new overdubs on them that people didn't like. And then when they did the 40th reissues with the Steven Wilson mixes, they reverted them back to the original recordings without the overdubs. So, and
people complained. They said, "Where's the flute solos? It sounds so empty." It's like you can't make people happy. It's very, very hard and very expensive, because in order to make everyone happy, they would have had to put a 2005 remaster, the original mix, basically a binaural reduction of the Atmos mix. And we would take a box set that's already north of $100 and add another $25, $30 to the price tag. And I'm sure people would have bought it.
As for the Atmos mix itself, I'm very curious how this is going to come out, because it's the first Genesis record to get an Atmos mix.
Correct.
I believe.
That's correct.
Peter Gabriel's overseeing it, and the Atmos mix
as well.
And Tony Banks, but the Atmos mix of Peter Gabriel's last solo record, which was done by somebody else. It wasn't done by Bob McKenzie. It was done by Hans Martin Buff, but it was done at Real World. It sounds great.
It does.
And I think you and I both are not the biggest fans of the Nick Davis 5.1 mix.
Well, I haven't listened to the Nick Davis 5.1 mix of this album yet.
Oh, okay.
But I did get the box set at Prague Day this year from a friend, and my impression was that Trespass and Nursery Crime sound terrible. And I have my reasons for thinking that I'll probably get into in another video. However, starting with Foxtrot and selling England by the pound, I think there's an uptick. I think they're a little bit better. And I put this one on for a little bit and I thought it sounded okay. Now, here's the other controversial thing about this box set. On the Nick Davis master, or the Nick Davis 5.1 remix on this version from 2007, there's a very cool slideshow that plays. And it's actually the slides that the band used in their live concerts. And it helps tell the story in a very visual way. And that's not included on this new version. So I'm thinking that that's a bit of an oversight. Like they should have had that visual element. Now, I will say that I did watch Phil Aston's review of this, and it was a members only thing, so I don't want to like give away too much, but he seemed very positive about it.
Did he talk about the Atmos mix? Just out of curiosity.
Did.
Oh, cool. Okay.
He did. He's maybe the biggest creator who's endorsing Atmos lately. So he was very complimentary of it and said it changed the way he hears this album completely. So I'm very excited for the Atmos mix. And I have a feeling that it's going to be one of those cases where everything else in the box set is really redundant or not for me, but that one great mix is going to keep it on my shelf. You know what I mean? And the
happens
booklet,
a lot.
the booklet looks fantastic too. I've seen the booklet like in Barry's videos and stuff, and it looks fantastic. So yeah, that's our spiel on the Lamb. We're talking about maybe doing another roundtable discussion on this when it comes out. So look for that. If it's something you're interested in, subscribe to the channel and you might see that very soon. So also on September 26th, the 26th is a big day for releases. We have Drums and Wires from XTC, one of my very favorite bands.
I got my copy here too. You
Yeah.
have the Blu-ray or the DVD?
This is the Blu-ray.
Same here, Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I think the Blu-ray has a little bit more material.
It does.
It has a bunch of extra songs that are in 5.1 and all these like demos and session recordings. I mean, these reissues, the XTC ones, are as good as it gets for packing as much material as possible onto one Blu-ray.
Right. Now, my complaint with the Atmos mix of Skylarking was that they left a lot of that material off. But I think it's included. I think it's included with the Drums and Wires mix.
As far as I can tell from like the pre-release listing, they did include all like the demos and stuff. Like that's all in stereo from the 2014 release, which is this one. But I thought the Steven Wilson Atmos mix of Skylarking like obliterated the old 5.1 mix. Like it was that much better. So I'm very curious to see what he does with this, because this album is nowhere near as dense as Skylarking.
No, but it's got Complicated Game on it.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a great Atmos track. I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that. And so this comes out in 1 week. And I'd like to review this because XTC are one of those bands that have become, they were like my identity when I was in college. I just listened to them on a loop. So, like from the early kind of punkish new wave records, which this sort of slots into that, even to when they started to transition into like the Beatles of the 80s, like these studio masters.
I mean, this is the
excellent songwriters.
This is the record that kind of put them on the map, right?
It was.
Making Plans for Nigel was kind of their breakthrough single, as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that put Andy Partridge and Colin Moulding at odds for years, I think. So moving on to, this is also the 26th, Air, the Virgin Suicides redo. I know nothing about this release other than, now here's my question. Does this have anything to do with the Virgin Suicides film?
I believe so. I think it was, but I'm not entirely sure. So as far as Air go, my only familiarity with them is from these reissues they've been doing. So the first album they released in Atmos was called 10,000 Hertz Legend. It came out on this little digipack with a Blu-ray and a CD in 2021. I want to say I remember this is one of the very first Atmos mixes I listened to in 2021 when I first set my system up. There's another album called Moon Safari, which is probably their biggest album, that also came out on a CD Blu-ray set like this. The mixes on these have been really good. So, and I've enjoyed the music. It's this kind of like cool, spacey electronic stuff. Some of the songs have vocals on them, some of them don't. So, I mean, for the right price, I think this is pretty cheap. It's another like $20-$30 thing. I may end up just going for this on the strength of how good the last two were.
Nice. All right. Also on September 26th, we have Mark Knopfler sailing to Philadelphia. Now, this is a super deluxe edition exclusive, which means it's only available from their shop, and it is a import from the UK.
Yes.
Do you know this record, Jonathan?
I do. So there was a 5.1 release of it when it originally came out in the early 2000s. This is a digipack, but it has a DVD audio disc in it. So the old 5.1 mix was done by Chuck Ainlay, who's one of my favorite 5.1 mixers. He did the 5.1 mix of Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms, which is,
okay,
I believe it won a Grammy, and it's considered like one of the great 5.1 releases of that period.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the Chuck Ainlay 5.1 mix is not on this new Blu-ray. I know Paul Sinclair, who's the editor owner of SDE, who works on these reissues, he said there was for some reason, like because the rights are split between the UK and US, they couldn't license it, but they did try to. So this reissue has a new Atmos mix by Guy Fletcher, who was one of the guys. He was in Dire Straits. He was the keyboard player, and he's been like Mark Knopfler's longtime musical collaborator, co-producer. So, and he's done Atmos mixes of, he did a new Atmos mix of Brothers in Arms, and he did an Atmos mix of Mark's latest record, which is called One Deep River. It also came out on a super deluxe Blu-ray. So I like the music on this. It's, this kind of cool, laid back blues stuff. Considering how good the 5.1 mix is on this, I'm not sure I'm going to go for the new Blu-ray, but I'm waiting to hear some reviews. If the Atmos mix is an improvement on this, I would think about it.
Sure. Yeah. I have to admit that the Brothers in Arms album is a complete blind spot for me. It's
really? Wow.
It's one that I've had in my cart on Amazon several times. I thought I need to hear that. So yeah, I would like to explore, because I do like Dire Straits, like some of their early material.
I love the one for me is their first record. That would be great as an Atmos mix. The one that has like Sultans of Swing on it.
Yeah. See, that's the stuff I like Sultans of Swing and Tunnel of Love and that kind of stuff. So
Brothers in Arms is like kind of their most commercial album, give or take, but it still has some kind of experimental stuff on it, especially on the second side.
Oh, well, I know Steven Wilson likes it, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the one that's got Beverly Hillbillies on it, right? Or sorry, Money for Nothing.
Yes, it is the one that has Money for Nothing. But if you end up listening to it, my favorite track on it is there's this piece called Ride Across the River on the second side. That's this sort of super cool, atmospheric, experimental song. It's totally the opposite of Money for Nothing.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I need to check that one off the list. So this is also September 26th. This is Donny McCaslin, Lullaby for the Lost, and I Want More. Now, this is an exclusive through Immersive Audio album, correct?
Yes. So Donny McCaslin, he's a sax player, but most people know him as he's the guy who played sax on David Bowie's Black Star.
Oh, okay.
And he played a big role in kind of shaping that record and working with Bowie. The story goes that Bowie just discovered him one night playing at like a jazz club in New York. But since he did the Bowie record, this was in 2015 or 16, right before Bowie passed away. He's been making these kind of cool like jazz funk fusion kind of records. So I think the first record was called Blow, and then there's I Want More, which was released in 2023, and then the latest one, Lullaby for the Lost, is coming out on the 26th. It's a new record. So for I Want More, the Atmos mix has been up on streaming services since it came out in 2023. These albums are released through a jazz label called Edition Records, who we just did a partnership with an IA, so we're able to release these albums as downloads, and they also have a bunch of other records mixed in Atmos. But I think the cool thing about these is the Atmos mixes were done by Dave Fridman, who most people know as the guy who produced like the Flaming Lips. He did the absolutely insane Atmos and 5.1 mixes of those albums. It's like Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots and the Soft Bulletin. Yeah. So these mixes are as aggressive as you would hope. There are things, panned all over the place. And if you like kind of this sort of like jazz funk fusion kind of thing, think like, Herbie Hancock would definitely be an influence. These are definitely worth checking out. And I'm very excited to have them on the IA site.
This would be up my alley just from the way you described it. And I do have that Yoshimi and the Pink Robots Blu-ray, and it's sealed. I haven't played it yet, so you got to get on my case about that. I need to hear that.
Yeah, it's really good.
So you have kind of created this genre, or you haven't created it, but you've named it, and that's esoteric prog. And I can't get that out of my head, because it's like that's where I live is esoteric prog. And this is maybe one of the more esoteric of esoteric prog artists. And this is Peter Hammill, and this amazing, expansive new box set that comes out September 26th. It is a companion piece to this box set, The Charisma Years from Van der Graaf Generator. And the reason why I say it's a companion piece is that many of these albums that you're going to get as stereo versions, there's only 2 5.1 mixes, but many of these albums that are in this box set were made at the same time as the Van der Graaf albums and feature all members of Van der Graaf Generator. Even Nick Potter, who was in and out of the group, appears on several of these albums. And there are 2 5.1 mixes, and I meant to check which ones they were, because I've actually never heard either one of the albums that are being released. But I think The Future Now is one of them, which is the one that you see here where he's got the half beard thing going on. And I think PH7 is the other. And I'm absolutely excited about this release. It's Stephen W. Taylor doing the 2 5.1 mixes, but the albums that are available just in stereo mixes are basically home recordings that Peter Hammill made in the early and mid 70s. And I don't think it would be even possible to mix these in 5.1 without like the use of the stem separation technology, but they're just so weird and idiosyncratic. I just don't see it really working. And the mere fact that none of these albums are in print anymore, and the previous editions of these from 2006 were horrifically brickwalled, makes this just an essential purchase for me, because I don't have any of them. I used to have several of them on vinyl, and I loved them. So this is like one of those that they just pulled right off of my wish list. It was like the wish list of my dreams, Peter Hammill box set, and they made it happen. So I'm going to be reviewing this. I'm hoping to do some discussions with some Van der Graaf and Hammill people that I know, fans that I know. So I assume you're not going to pick this set up.
If they do like a separate edition of the surround albums like they did for the Charisma Years, I would be open to it, certainly.
I feel that they probably will, because I think that the Van der Graaf box set came out first, and then they did the standalones later on.
Yeah, the only difference was the box set edition was a Blu-ray and the standalones were DVDs. But I mean, I don't really care. The DTS 2496 they used for the DVDs sounds great. That's the same thing they use for like the Tull reissues. Right. But the Charisma Years stuff, like I think I ended up buying one of them at the outset, like just to get a taste of it. I think the first one I bought was God Bluff, which I thought was really cool. And then I ended up sort of picking up the other ones over time. So I do have all 4 as the standalone CD DVDs. Yeah,
that's a great set. The Van der Graaf set, and to me, this is the other half of the story. So if you have that, this is a must-have. So also on the 26th of September, this is a big day for releases, man.
Yeah.
We have Beat Live. This is subtitled Neon Heat Disease. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, this is a project helmed by Adrian Belew, that is recapturing the historic 1980s lineup of King Crimson. And Tony Levin is there, an original member, playing bass and Chapman stick, who many of you may also know as a member of Peter Gabriel's band, as well as his incredible session work. I'm sure he's still in demand. That man has played on everybody's record.
It's insane. Like, look up his discography. It'll blow your minds.
Yeah, he's just on everybody's record. Danny Carey from Tool on drums, and of course Steve Vai, known for his work for Frank Zappa. He was with David Lee Roth for a while, and of course he's done his solo work, which is incredible and expansive. But this was a tour that I think they did a world tour of this, and it was extremely highly regarded. But when I went to buy my seats, all that were left were like really crappy mezzanine seats. So I never got to see it. And therefore, I'm really excited to see this because I really want to know what it's all about and get a taste for it, because these are some incredible musicians playing my favorite era of King Crimson's music. I didn't bring it, but I actually do have the 80s King Crimson box set with like Discipline 3 of a Perfect Pair and Beat.
Somewhere back here, I've got the standalones of Beat, Discipline, and 3 of a Perfect Pair.
Yeah. So it's that material. If you're into the 80s King Crimson specifically, this is a two disc set, and there's a Blu-ray disc, and there's also like a media book edition that's got like another disc in it. But there's a film of this Los Angeles performance, and it's been mixed in 5.1 by Bob Clearmountain. So we know it's going to sound fantastic.
So I think there's some history there, like Bob Clearmountain mixed some tracks for 3 of a Perfect Pair or something like that.
Yeah, he did.
I'm not totally sure
Sleepless.
offhand. Yeah.
I think he mixed like a dance mix of Sleepless.
But I'm curious what this is going to be like, because some of Bob Clearmountain's live 5/1 mixes have been like just kind of ambience in the back.
Okay.
Or he'll like put the vocals in the center channel. So it's kind of like a 3-channel mix in the front and some concert ambience in the back. And then there's other ones like it's in another part of the room, but he did UK's Night by Night. And that's like a pretty discreet mix with, some parts placed behind you. So I'm curious which way he goes with this one.
Yeah, so am I. I can't wait to hear this. From the 26th through like early October, I'm going to be slammed busy with all these releases, man. So this is coming out on October. So we're moving into October. This is the first release for the month of October. It comes out the 10th. And this is the Pixies album, Bossanova. I love the Pixies. I love Surfa Rosa and Doolittle, which I think is available as a download from IAA, and I have been meaning
Yes,
to
it
pick
is.
that up.
And there's also a 5.1 Blu-ray that was released years ago that's out of print. But the IA download has the 5.1 mix too.
Oh, terrific!
Yeah. So if you yeah,
I don't know this record. Are you familiar with Bossa Nova at all?
Yeah. The first thing I heard from is there's a song called Valoria on it that I think was the hit, and I remember hearing that in a TV show recently called Halt and Catch Fire. They made good use of that song in the show. But these two records, Bossa Nova and Trompe Le Monde, were like unceremoniously dropped on Apple Music in Atmos earlier this year. I want to say in like May or June. And since IA is partnered with the Beggars Group, which is the big indie label that controls this stuff, we're able to release these as downloads. I don't know who did the Atmos mixes for these. A guy named Richard Whitaker did the Atmos of Pixies Doolittle. And he's done a bunch of other stuff. He did like those Thin Lizzy records that released in Atmos.
Yeah, and Bridge of Sighs.
Years earlier, he did the 5/1 of The Who's Quadrophenia.
Okay.
I believe he also did the new Atmos mix, which is streaming only for now. But the mix of Doolittle was really good, considering that it's like a pretty sparse album. But it's very big sounding. Like there's a lot of reverb on it. So it kind of feels like you're in this huge space. And like they did what they could, separating some of the lead and backing vocals around you. And it's very dynamic and not harsh sounding. So I think this one should be equally good. I mean, you can listen to it on streaming already, but we're going to put the true HD lossless version on IA.
Nice. Well, congratulations on that. Doolittle's a great record, and when I finally get around to picking up some IAA stuff, that's going to be first on my list, I think. Also on the 10th of October, this is John and Yoko, John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and this is the Power to the People box set, 9 CDs with 3 Blu-rays. I don't know anything about this. I don't think we want to get into this too much, but I know there's some controversy over a missing song.
Yes. So what this really is, it's a reissue of this album called Sometime in New York City, which was released between Imagine and Mind Games. And there's some controversy over this missing song that has an expletive in the title. We don't really have to get into that. But my understanding is that they mixed all of the record, maybe except for that song, in 5/1 and Atmos. So they've been doing these expansive John Lennon reissues for a couple years now. So there was the Imagine box set that came out in 2018. That's got this is a great set that has tons of stuff in surround on it. It has the original quad mix of Imagine, which has been out of print since the 70s. It has a new 5-1 mix by Paul Hicks, who's a longtime Abbey Road engineer who's done lots of stuff. And it has 5-1 mixes of like all the outtakes. It's like these raw versions of the songs without the Phil Spector production. It's really cool. And then after that, they did the Gimme Some Truth, which is like a greatest hits collection. And this is in 5-1 and Atmos. So this came out in 2020 during the pandemic. And I would recommend this if you kind of just want like the hits from Lennon's solo career. You know, like it's got Woman, it's got Whatever Gets You Through the Night, it's got Mind Games. There's a lot of songs in this. There's 36 tracks on it on one Blu-ray. So this is a really cool set. I don't know if it's still in print. It might be. And then after that, they did the debut album, Plastic Ono Band, which is, you know, don't expect a great surround experience for this. It's a very stripped down album, but it sounds good. It's cool hearing the vocals isolated in the center channel. And I don't have it, but they also did a reissue of Mind Games with 5-1 and Atmos and all the outtakes.
The final one, right? That's the final. Is that the final Lennon album, or am I thinking of something else?
There's Walls and Bridges, which is the one that has Whatever Gets You Through the Night, and then there's the last album, Double Fantasy, which was released a couple weeks before he died. So when they went straight from Imagine to Mind Games, a lot of people thought they would just skip Sometime in New York City.
Yeah,
but they actually ended up doing this box set for it. So personally, I'm probably going to skip this. I think it's really expensive and it's not my favorite material from him. But if they do Walls and Bridges, that would be cool because there's also a quad mix of that record that they could include in the box set. So yeah.
See, I'm not a much of a John Lennon fan. I love the Beatles, of course, but just his solo work, I've not really put the time into it. But I do know that there's some overlap with the Mothers, with Zappa and the Mothers Carnegie Hall show, because John and Yoko actually appear on the encores for one of those shows.
Yeah, so there are some interesting like there's an album he made with Harry Nilsson during that time. There was a thing where he turned up at like an Elton John live show, and Elton sings backup on Whatever Gets You Through the Night, I think, and maybe a bunch of his others. So in the mid 70s, there was some interesting, collabs between him and other artists. So yeah,
October 10th is another big day because we got this the Human League Dare. This is another super deluxe edition exclusive, and once again, I know nothing about this record at all.
Well, it's a classic, like synth pop new wave album. I'm sure you've heard that song "Don't You Want Me" before.
Probably, maybe I don't know the title.
So there's a couple tracks from this already streaming on Apple Music, and I thought it was the Atmos mix was pretty boring. Like I wasn't that impressed by it. So this is one I ended up passing on, but it is a classic 80s record, and there's no shortage of those getting done in surrounds.
Especially for Super Deluxe Edition. That seems to be the niche that they're plowing through. Like I feel like any day now we're going to get the Tears for Fears announcements.
For sure.
So this is also on the 10th of October, but we have 4 mystery Quadio titles from Rhino Records. What could they be?
So as many people watching this are probably members of the Quadraphonic Quad forum, and there's a Rhino A&R guy who frequently posts there, and he gives like kind of fun hints about reissues that are coming up. And one of the things he'll do is he posts a picture of like the spines on the side of the disc, so people can try to guess what they are based on like the colors of the cover art. So I think as far as I'm aware, the only information we have confirmed on this is that one of the albums is going to be by the band War.
Okay.
And there were 2 albums by War that were released in Quad in the 70s. One of them was called The World is a Ghetto. It has that song, The Cisco Kid, on it, which is one of their hits. I have the original Quad 8-track of it here.
Nice. I didn't know they did Quad on 8-track.
Yes. Yeah. Horrible format, but they're fun.
Sure. Yeah.
So they've done this one as a Quadio, so you can get this on Blu-ray, and it sounds a lot better than the 8-track, believe me. So there's another album called Deliver the Word. Well, actually, there were 3 albums that were mixed in Quad. I'm sorry. There's another studio record called Deliver the Word, so it could be that one. There's also a War live set that I think was a 2-tape set. But what people are speculating is there's another album, a studio record called Why Can't We Be Friends? That was one of their biggest albums, and it has the song Lowrider on it, which I think was like their signature song. There never was a quad mix of that record, but it's speculated that maybe one was finished and not released, as we've seen with some other albums, like, Joni Mitchell's Miles Viles.
Yeah.
There was a Rod Stewart album called Atlantic Crossing that was never released in quad, but they found a finished quad mix for it for the Quadio program.
What about the tall sets that,
Exactly. Minstrel in the Gallery, Too Old to Rock and Roll. So it's the 50th anniversary of that album. So people are thinking it could be that one, which would be really cool because it's a never before heard quad mix. And then my only other guess is you can see on one of the spine pictures on the forum that it has like a red and yellow thing. And I think that's almost certainly Hot Tuna's America's Choice, which I've got the quad LP for it here. It's the Quadradisc logo. For people who don't know much about them, Hot Tuna is like an offshoot of Jefferson Airplane. It has a couple of the members. And it's kind of like a blues rock sort of thing. And they had a bunch of albums that were released in quad in the 70s. So yeah, I mean, that's as much as I know about the upcoming batch, but I think they've been killing it with these. It's great to have this stuff out. They do a batch of 4 pretty much every quarter. Long may they continue until they run out of quad mixes to put out.
This is also the 10th of October. This is the Spandau Ballet. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
And this is Everything Is Now Volume 1, the early years 1978 to 1982. 6 CD, Blu-ray, 2 LP, includes Steven Wilson 5.1 and Atmos mixes. So I don't know anything about this band, but if Wilson's doing it, it's probably going to be interesting.
So they're like a 80s kind of like new wave bands. And my understanding is that part of the reason why this came along is because Wilson is friends with Gary Kemp, who was one of the like songwriters. And I believe he wasn't the lead singer, but he was the backup singer and songwriter and guitarist for the band. And there's an Atmos mix that Steven did of Gary's new album that came out this year called This Destination. That's on streaming services, which is excellent. Okay. I'm not holding out much hope that they're going to do a Blu-ray of that because it's a pretty, unknown album, but it sounds great. I would recommend that if you have a Apple Music subscription. But so my understanding is that Steven did like a greatest hits collection. There's a singles collection from this band called Gold that has a bunch of the most famous song you probably heard from them is that song True. And I think their career kind of divides. The first couple albums are sort of more experimental. And then they started to get a little bit more commercial with these songs like True and Gold and Only When You Leave. So it looks like instead of releasing the greatest hits collection as one thing, they've split it into these box sets.
Okay.
So on this set, the Steven Wilson mixes are only of the singles. They're not of this set covers like the first 2 records, but he didn't mix the whole records. He only mixed like the singles from them. So I think there's only like 5 or 6 tracks on this that are in 5.1 and Atmos. So personally, I'm waiting for the part 2 set, which has like all the really famous songs like True and Gold and all the ones I just mentioned. And maybe once this is all over, once they release all these box sets, they'll do like a SDE Blu-ray or a standalone Blu-ray that just has all the Atmos stuff. Yeah, I guess it would be Rhino because this is a Rhino thing.
You just do a Rhino store exclusive, like the and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but like the Doors box, or the Tony Mitchell box.
The last thing I'll say about this is the other cool thing about Gary Kemp, and this relates back to the prog world, is that he's in the Nick Mason Saucerful of Secrets band.
Oh yes, I see. When you said his name, it's like that's really familiar. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Like he was in this very like this sort of poppy band, and now he's doing this sort of prog stuff. He has a podcast with Guy Pratt, who is again like a bassist with a prolific
Pink Floyd.
Yeah, with Pink Floyd. So the two of them have this podcast they call the Rock on Tours, where they interview musicians they've worked with. Like they did one with Brian Ferry. They did one with Steven Wilson recently. So I would check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah, well, thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to grab a couple discs.
So you have all of them? You have Tails, Eye, Pyramid, and nice.
Yep, I have all of them so far. I don't think there's any that I'm missing. The one that I've been waiting for, and maybe many people have been waiting for, is iRobot, which is their second album. And for me, it's kind of the last gasp of the original Alan Parsons project. Kind of experimental, edgy stuff, even though they were drifting into kind of more funk and disco things with like, I don't want to be like you. Breakdowns, kind of poppy. But there is an experimental side too, much like Tales of Mystery and Imagination.
There's this awesome track on it. I think it's called The Voice.
Yeah.
This sort of cool, like atmospheric instrumental thing. One thing I will say about this record, and anyone who has like a collection of old quad decoders or gear can attest, is that when you play this album through any kind of like upmixing algorithm, it goes crazy. Because there's a lot of like interesting phase information in it. So I've heard there are a lot of very convincing like pseudo upmixes people have made. So I'm very curious how the real thing is going to turn out. Yeah. Because it is really tailor-made for this.
Yeah. And as we were talking about this prior to recording, don't buy this. I mean, if you want it, buy it. But it's multiple discs. It's got vinyl, and the price tag is like $200. And I don't know about you, but I'm running out of room. Like I only have room for so many box sets, and like something like the Peter Hammill box set where it's got multiple albums that I don't have it's like, yeah, I will spend the money on that. But something like this where it's just like, I'm going to be listening to 18 different versions of I Don't Want to Be Like You, that wears me out. And I just don't know how much I'm going to go back and listen to it. And I know I'm never going to play the vinyl. I'm just not much of a vinyl guy in general. As I say, I have to pick my habits, so they've always done standalone editions of these, and they're usually available within like 6 months, even sooner. I think more like 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to wait personally and see if they do a standalone edition like they did with the others. But what can I say about Alan Parsons Project? They're a constant source of inspiration for me as a producer and mixing and mastering engineer, because this is some of the best sounding music you can get from that era, I think.
I mean, I've been wanting to interview Alan for ages. So in case he sees this, because I've met a lot of people who know him. Like I interviewed Steven Wilson, I interviewed Elliot Shiner, a lot of these sort of surround engineer people, and they all kind of know each other. So I would love to talk to Alan because, of course, famously he did the quad mix of Dark Side of the Moon,
right?
Which we're going to talk about when we do our quad video,
right? I wonder why there was no quad mixes of the Alan Parsons Project albums. That seems like it would have been obvious.
What year was Tales?
I want to say that was 75, so maybe that was slightly outside.
It was kind of at the end already. Yeah, I would say the sort of the golden years of quad are like 72 to 74. And then there were sporadic releases, 75, 76, 77, but 75 was kind of the year the big labels started to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's one that I'm excited for sure. And speaking of things that I'm excited for, on the 24th of October, we get 2 new releases from King Crimson. And these are continuing the complete recording sessions series. And I don't know how complete these are, because I know that like Red was semi-complete because they didn't have all the stuff. But
yeah, so far they've done Court of the Crimson King. This is the 2019 edition that has new stereo and 5.1 mixes. The Atmos mix is not on this. It's on the 69 box. Yeah, which was released a year later in 2020.
Yeah. Don't you love it when they do that?
I think it was just sort of unfortunate timing, because I think when Steven did this, he wasn't set up for Atmos yet, and a year later he was.
Yeah.
And then more recently they've done Lark's Tongues and Aspic and Red.
Yeah. And those are great. I think
these are far better than the 40th anniversary editions.
They are.
Especially Red, because this was one of the earliest 5.1 mixes that Steven Wilson did. It was done in 2009. So even if you're only you're not set up for Atmos, the 2024 5.1 mix is way better than the 2009 one.
I totally agree. And like what's remarkable about that Red mix is, when Bruford's playing the wood blocks in Starless,
yeah,
all this tension, and he just goes tick tock.
I love in One More Red Nightmare, you could hear like the reverse claps moving around the height speakers in the Atmos mix. Yeah.
I was going to mention I have up firing heights, but when he does that, it sounds like it's coming down from the wall. Like when he hits those wood blocks, it just sounds like it's coming right down from the heavens. So I absolutely love those Atmos mixes. We get two really wild albums. We get In the Wake of Poseidon, which is the Crimson's second album. And here's the one I'm really excited for. This is Lizard. And
got the 40th anniversary editions here.
So do I. And I love them. They were among the first 5.1 mixes I think that Steven did for anybody outside of Porcupine Tree. I think this is maybe one of the first ones that I bought from him outside of like Aqualung.
Yeah, these were done like 2009, 2010, around that time.
So very early on.
Famously, like Robert Fripp doesn't like the Lizard album. Like he considers it like a low point in the catalog. But when Steven mixed it in 5.1, he was like, wow, like I finally appreciate this record.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never heard any of these albums until they did the surround versions. Like my dad was not a King Crimson fan. He didn't buy any of their records. But I think Lizard is an awesome album.
It is.
I think it's really cool. I really like Gordon Haskell's voice, actually. And there's the short section with John Anderson at the beginning of side 2.
Yeah.
And it's already wild in the 2009 5.1 mix. So I can't imagine what this is going to sound like in Atmos. It's going to be totally off the wall.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've ordered both of these and they should arrive like within a week of release date. So if you want to see them reviewed, again, subscribe to the channel, and in about a month, you might see these appear. And I'm guessing we'll probably do a discussion on these because they're fun. They're fun albums. And especially this one. Like I think this one's going to be wild because I think this is Steven's favorite King Crimson album, and it might be one of his favorites of all time. So I think this will be a labor of love for him. And I'm really, really, really excited. I'm guessing that as soon as Atmos came around, Steven was thinking, how do I do Lizard again? I'm sure he was already imagining what he was going to do.
I'm curious how far they're going to go with these reissues. Like if they're going to do Atmos of like the 80s stuff or of Islands and Starless and Bible Black. It'd be interesting. I think Discipline would be great in an Atmos mix.
Yeah.
So if they keep doing them and they keep putting them in these, relatively inexpensive hard case editions, I'll keep buying them.
Me too. Yeah. So, and I also like
DGM if you're listening.
I was going to say, I also like how these new editions are just one CD and one Blu-ray. So they're like half the price of the previous editions, which I think the Lark's Tongues and the Red sets were both 4 discs, 2 CDs and 2 Blu-rays. So you're paying like the same price as you would for like the Red set to get both of them. So I hope that, it's like my dream is that they'll do the 80s albums together again. They'll just do an 80s Atmos box, complete recordings. I'd buy that in a heartbeat because those are my favorite Crimson albums. So
Discipline's one of my favorites for sure.
It's my favorite. So I hope they continue. So what is it you always say? Long may they
continue.
Long may they continue. Yeah. Maybe that'll be the title of the video. So also on the 24th of October, paging Mr. Brockway.
He's a big Elton fan.
Oh yeah. He's a huge Elton John fan. This is Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Once again, a super deluxe edition exclusive standalone Blu-ray. And I'm not familiar with a lot of Elton John music, but I like all the hits and stuff.
You're like a hits guy, yeah. So I bet you went for the Diamonds release.
Oh, I didn't buy that, but I should.
Oh, really?
Have. Yeah, I should.
So this is a cool. I don't know if it's still available, but it's got like 50 songs mixed in Atmos.
Wow.
It's insane. It's the most I've ever seen fit on one Blu-ray. But so there's a bunch of songs from the Captain Fantastic album that are on this. Like it's got what's that? Someone Saved My Life Tonight. It's got a couple songs. But previously the entire Elton catalog, if people don't know, was mixed in 5.1 by Greg Penny during the early 2000s. So this is the SACD of Captain Fantastic that came out in, I want to say like 2004. And it's got a couple like bonus tracks too. Like it's got Philadelphia Freedom, which is also on the Diamonds set in Atmos. And it's got Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I think this is one of Elton's best albums. I think like even the album cuts on this are killer. Like the title track is awesome. There's a song called Tower of Babel on this. That's a great song. And the original 5.1 mix was like pretty off the wall with like lots of guitars and backing vocals in the rear. So I think this should sound great in Atmos.
Awesome. And is it the same mixes that are on the compilation album? Do you think they're going to be the same mixes that are here, or?
I'm not sure. They might be revised because the Diamonds collection, even though this came out on Blu-ray this year, these mixes were released on streaming, I want to say in 2022.
Okay.
And then the song Rocket Man was like famously like one of the first popular songs to be mixed in Atmos.
Okay.
Like they were using that at like trade shows like 10 years ago.
Interesting.
Long before it was even released to the public. So it's possible he might have like just mixed the whole catalog a long time ago and these are finally coming out. Or maybe he went back and revised some of the mixes. But either way, I think, Greg Penny's a great surround mixer. Another person I'd love to interview one day. And I think this is going to be a good release.
It's nice when they go back and use the same person who did the 5.1 mix, especially if it was one that was universally lauded and appreciated. I like it when they go back to the original mixer. And
he's been working with Elton John since I want to say like the mid 90s. So yeah.
And I was just going to say, when they do Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, I think they'll get my money because I love it. It's on
Apple Music. The whole record mixed in Atmos. And also Honky Chateau and the self-titled album, the one that has like Your Song and Take Me to the Pilot. Those have been on Apple Music for a couple years now. So I think it's only a matter of time.
Good to know.
When they do the Blu-rays.
Well, speaking of releases that are being liberated from streaming services.
Yes.
We have the Doors Immersion box set, which is, oh my God, this was the easiest insta-buy I've had since the Wish You Were Here set, which is coming out in December. Well, I should say the Wish You Were Here Blu-ray because I didn't buy the set. But so here's my spiel on the Doors albums. I've loved them since I was in high school. I had a friend who was obsessed with them, and it was these guys, Pink Floyd, Nirvana, like that's what we listened to. And so I heard all of these. I bought them at the time. I love them, especially the first three. The
first album is like one of those moments in time where just like every song's killer.
Yeah. And it's like, if you've seen Apocalypse Now, like when I close my eyes and listen to the end, I can just see Captain Willard coming out of the swamp at the end of the film. Here's my Doors Atmos story. So I got my system, I want to say it was probably at the tail end of 22. It was like Christmas of 22. And all I had to listen to was, I had 5.1 releases, but I had the Porcupine Tree set, Closure Continuation Live, and I had Lark's Tongues and Aspic. So really all I had other than those two physical releases was streaming to get into. And I listened to all of these Doors albums front to back several times, and they are absolutely formative Dolby Atmos experiences for me. And like Riders on the Storm, oh my goodness, it's one of the tracks like I'll show people who've never heard Atmos because it's perfect for it. It was waiting for this format. Yep. And I would even extend that to the entirety of the Strange Days record, which is one of the trippiest things ever created. And it just, the line I always say is that it converts your environment into the album, and it converts your environment into the Doors album. So, I think I used a coupon code that I got from the Quad forums, and I got like 15% off of this. So
even the retail price, what is it? It's like $80 for 6 albums.
I think so.
Yeah.
But the code like basically took all the shipping and tax off. So I paid $85 flat for 6 Atmos Blu-rays. That's like $15 a disc. This is such a great deal, in my opinion.
So for me, the Doors were one of my dad's favorite bands. So they're by extension one of my favorite bands, and we have all their records. But as far as the surround stuff goes, the Doors catalog has been remixed in surround before, and I'll give you kind of a brief overview of all the versions because I've got them in front of me. So during the 70s, there was a best of collection that was mixed specially for Quad.
Nice.
That has, I think, it's like 11 or 12 songs from across the entire catalog that were mixed in Quad. But the individual albums were never released in Quad, just this best of collection. And then in the early 2000s, when 5.1 came around, they did LA Woman as a standalone DVD audio. The 5.1 mix was done by Bruce Spotnick, who was the original engineer on the album. And he produced LA Woman. They weren't working with Paul Rothchild anymore at this point. And then a couple years later, so this is like 1999, 2000. In 2006, they released this box set called the Perception set that has the it has new stereo and 5.1 mixes of all the records as a DVD audio. So I think a lot of people kind of thought this was like the last word on the Doors. And they also, the 5.1 mixes were re-released on SACD by Analog Productions a couple years later. And I think you could still get some of those.
I'm pretty sure, because the way that Analog Productions works is, I think when they run out of print, if they still maintain the license, they eventually do come back.
And then with the quadraphonic best of mix, there was a SACD from Audio Fidelity that came out 2015. And then a couple years later, Rhino put out this thing called the Singles, which has a Blu-ray in it with the quad mix. So these are same mix, but like different tape transfers, different mastering. I think the Blu-ray sounds a little better.
Okay.
Pretty sure both of these are out of print. And then I don't have it in front of me, but when the whole catalog was mixed again for Atmos in 2022 for streaming, last year, Rhino released like a standalone best of that has like, I want to say like 20 or 25 songs, a single disc Blu-ray that are the Atmos mixes from the streaming services and the 5.1 from the Perception set. So it looks like this new box set, the Immersed one, it has all the records in Atmos, the 2022 mixes. And I think it will also have all the 5.1 mixes that were on the Perception set.
That was going to be my next question.
So I think if you're someone who hasn't bought any Doors physical media, like this is, you know, totally killer. It would have been nice if they could have put the quad version in there. Maybe they're saving that for another release or something.
Yeah, it could be a Quadio release.
Could be a Quadio, yeah. But as far as the stereo mixes on this Immersed thing, I don't know whether they're going to be the remixed versions or the originals. It would be nice if they could have put both.
I was thinking that, like, because I looked at Rhino's site and there's very little information about this other than it says that it includes the Atmos mixes and that they're Bruce Spotnick's mixes.
There are also dedicated mono mixes of a couple of albums. There's definitely a mono mix of the first album.
And I'm sure that some people think those are the ultimate versions.
I've never heard them. I mean, the stereo version of the first album is like, it's very hard panned.
Right.
Like, most of the songs have the drums and bass on one side. I think the only element ever mixed to the center is Jim Morrison's voice. So it's kind of like a 3-point mix, like a lot of early stereo mixes from that time were.
Yeah. Well, you know, you could, this is a topic for another day, but you could argue that early stereo mixes were an attempt at immersive audio in their own way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, this is something I'm really excited for and can't wait to find out more about it, because I see when I started my business, I sold off my record collection, or most of it. And since I've had a couple of, you know, successful years here lately, I've started to buy a lot of it back. And the Doors were the last holdout. When I've seen their stuff used, I resisted buying it for whatever reason.
It's often expensive.
Like, and it's often expensive too.
I was in a record store not long ago. I saw like an original pressing of LA Woman was like $40. Like, whoa. So I guess that means their music must be considered cool now.
Right.
Like the young people must be enjoying the Doors.
I hope so. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I like them.
I always have. There's just something captivating and magical about Jim Morrison's voice. And his poetry, and the organ work is phenomenal. The guitar work is phenomenal. The drums, you know, it's very much of the late 60s, which is an era that, you know, I have a lot of fondness for. So
like that keyboard sound in Light by Fire.
Yeah.
It's super dated, but it's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, it's sort of like it's come around to the point where it was dated for a while and now it's cool again. And I love it when that happens. So this is Halloween. So we're up to the 31st of October. We have The Who with Who Are You? And this is another Super Deluxe Edition exclusive. And this is a follow-up to Who's Next, which came out earlier this year. And I wanted that one, but I missed it. I don't know if I'm going to get this, but
there are a bunch of records between Who's Next and Who Are You. There's a few. I mean, Quadrophenia, Who by Numbers. I think maybe there's at least one more in there. But this is a Steven Wilson mix, like
Yes.
Who's Next. So I would say the Atmos mix is not totally exclusive to Super Deluxe Edition. There's also a box set like there was for Who's Next. I think it's like 7 CDs and a Blu-ray, and it's pretty expensive. But I went for the standalone because when Who's Next came out, it's one of my favorite albums. I did spring for the $300 box set just to get the Steven Wilson Atmos mixes. And also like I like the Who, so there's a lot of interesting, bonus material and stuff in there. It's the biggest box I've got. It's like maybe 3 or 4 inches thick. It's huge.
Is that one of the ones where they had like an entirely different album that they were working on?
Yeah, it was supposed to be called Lifehouse, like another kind of opera thing like Tommy, and then it eventually morphed into Who's Next. But I love those mixes. Like listening to Won't Get Fooled Again mixed in Surround by Steven Wilson is incredible, or Bob O'Reilly. So I think this one should be really cool too. I mean, the title track Who Are You is one of their best songs.
Yeah,
so that should be awesome. And there's some good this was the last album they made with Keith Moon before he passed away. But there's some good like album cuts on this. Like there's a song called Trick of the Light that I think's awesome. There's another song called 905 that's really cool. So yeah, I'm excited for this.
This is always a band that I wanted to spend more time with and get to know, because everything I've heard from them I've loved. And I've heard I've heard Who's Next on streaming. That was one of the first albums when I listened to The Doors, when I listened to Electric Ladyland for the first time in Atmos. That was in that list of stuff I want to check out. So I don't know how I missed it, but it sucks because these Super Deluxe editions, you got to snap them up and they're gone.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the other thing I'll say about this is that, Who's Next recorded in 1970 or 71 was recorded on 8-track. So like the opportunities to spread things out in Atmos were fairly limited, though I still think he did a good job with it. But this is years later. They were probably recording on 24-track by the time Who Are You came out, or at least 16. So, and there's just like more layers of this album. There's more layers of synths and vocals and things. The drums are in stereo on all the songs instead of on Who's Next. The drums are on mono, like recorded to 1 track on a couple of songs on that record. So I think this is gonna be a really cool Atmos mix.
Yeah. Well, cool. So this is also the 31st, correct?
Yes.
It is.
It was just announced this week.
And this is Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Now, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit, but everybody knows the song Relax because it's been in so many movies, it's been in commercials, it's been on the radio. And for me, there's a scene in Brian De Palma's Body Double, which is very surrealistic, where we just kind of float off into a dream sequence. And the dude from this band, is he actually Frankie? Is that his name?
No, the singer, his name's Holly Johnson.
Okay.
But
Holly Johnson,
most of the record was kind of like there was a band, but a lot of it is kind of like they just took the vocals, and Trevor Horn, who was the producer, and Stephen Lipson, who was his engineer, they kind of like crafted the music around the vocals. So it's very much like a studio creation where they were using like all the latest samplers and technology to make it this sort of widescreen extravaganza. It's a crazy record.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to mention is 2 things. Is that Holly is actually in the film. He's in the scene. And that film has an Atmos mix. And the song Relax is very discreet. Like you can hear synthesizers and stuff bubbling behind your head. So I have a pretty good idea of what this is going to sound like in Atmos, but I don't know what Wilson is going to do with it. So I'm really excited to hear his take on this material. And I've never heard this album, but just in reading about it and like being a fan of Trevor Horn's production, as well as like the mid 80s Yes albums, like 90125. I just sampled a little bit of this on streaming and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it.
There's a Yes record where Trevor Horn was actually the singer, right?
Yes. Drama.
Yeah.
And he might sing on Fly From Here, or I might be wrong about that.
But I think the standout on this for me is the like 16-minute title track is just killer.
Yep, with Steve Howe.
One of the cool things that Steven Wilson did for this new reissue that he just posted about it online was he made a 30-minute stereo version of the title song, I guess by just sort of like chopping it up and editing it. So it would have been cool if that was an Atmos, but I mean, that beat could just like go on forever.
Sure.
Just killer. Yeah.
And like I hear a lot of Steven's kind of more recent solo work in this.
Yeah,
like
like
Future
I
Bites.
think I would say for sure an album like The Future Bites was inspired by this kind of stuff, these sort of 80s Trevor Horn productions like,
Mhm.
Slave to the Rhythm or Pleasure Dome or Propaganda's Secret Wish, which we're going to talk about after this.
Nice segue there. So this is another Super Deluxe Edition exclusive, just like the Frankie album. And this is also on Halloween. I think we've got one more and it's also a Halloween release. But all I know about this is that it was mixed by David Costin, I think is how you say his name.
Costin, yeah.
Costin. And I know that Costin, like he co-mixed The Future Bites with Steven. And I kind of got the sense that maybe he taught him some of the ropes with Atmos mixing. So that's interesting.
So the stereo version of The Future Bites was mixed entirely by David, I think, and then Steven did the surround versions. And I think he also mixed a couple of songs for the Harmony Codex. Right. But David Costin, like he's been a working producer, probably for more than 25 years now. I mean, I've interviewed him. I got to meet him on like a Zoom call. Super nice guy if he's watching this. But he's done a couple, he's starting to get into this world of like doing these vintage rebuilds for Atmos mixes. So the first one he did was Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, which I thought had a great Atmos mix.
Yeah, I missed that one.
He did Paul Young's No Parlay, which is a record I had never heard of until it was released in Atmos, but it's pretty cool. Another kind of like 80s pop synth wave sort of thing. He did another Mike Oldfield record, Hergest Ridge. And my favorite one he did was the Thompson Twins' Into the Gap, which has like, those songs like Doctor, Doctor and Hold Me Now. That was a huge record in the 80s and it sounds incredible in Atmos. So I think this is going to be great. Like it's another Trevor Horn, Steve Lipson thing where they've pushed the limits of production at the time. It's a pretty experimental record, I would say more so than Frankie. And the other thing I'll add is there was a 5-1 mix of this record that was released in SACD 20 years ago. That's out of print and really hard to get. Apparently they couldn't license the 5-1 for the Super Deluxe reissue, kind of like with Mark Knopfler Sailing to Philadelphia. But I've heard the 5-1 mix. I don't think it's like that good. So I think the Atmos should be a big improvement.
Awesome. And you've ordered this one and you intend to review it?
Yeah, so from SDE, I have on order Captain Fantastic, Who Are You, Frankie, and this.
Cool.
I did all of those as like one big order, and then my wallet was crying after.
It's like I sense a disturbance in the force, like my wallet cried out and was suddenly silenced.
Yes.
So here's the final release for the month of October, again on Halloween Day. This is Fourplay Elixir, and I know nothing about this.
Yeah, so this comes through a label called Evo Sound, which is another partner of IAA, and they do some physical stuff too. They've been releasing, it's very interesting. They've been producing Atmos mixes of some records they control. Like most notably, they did Mr. Big's Lean Into It and the debut album, which it was kind of like a hair metal sort of band from the early 90s.
They opened for Rush, I think, in the late 80s.
So those are really cool. So they did Atmos mixes of those albums, but they ended up releasing them on SACD with like a 5-1 derived from the Atmos. Okay. Later on, we were able to get the Atmos mixes for IAA. But this group Fourplay, I know one of the members in it is Bob James, who's like this relatively famous keyboardist who's played in a lot of other people's stuff, and he's made a lot of records. So I would characterize this as kind of like smooth jazz. There's a song where Phil Collins sings vocals on this. The album was originally released in the 80s, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's good sounding stuff. Good surround mix. I've heard it already because I have the files from the label that's a prep for IA. So there's going to be a IA download that has the Dolby Atmos mix, which will also be on streaming, except the IA version will be a lossless file. And there's going to be a physical SACD that has a 5-1 mix derived from the Atmos master. So those are kind of your options with this one.
Good deal. Well, Jonathan, this has been fun. And we've got a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. A lot of stuff on order. And
there's stuff for November and December too.
And there's stuff for November and December too. And we'll be talking about that, I guess, in the next month. But the only other thing to mention is that I am going to leave a link to immersiveaudioalbum.com in the description so you can see Jonathan's reviews. And if you're interested in checking out any of these IAA exclusive albums that we talked about, you can order them by doing a search at that URL. And as for me, if you're interested in seeing my reviews of albums like the Grateful Dead album or The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, XTC's Drums and Wires, the Crimson stuff, my discussions with Jonathan, where we're going to talk about some of these releases. Like I said, we've already done the Blues for Allah album, and we have plans maybe to do the Lamb soon. If you want to keep up on all that stuff, if you want to keep up on the Peter Hammill box set, the best thing to do is to subscribe to the channel. If we missed anything, which I don't think we did, I think we tried to cover our bases as best we could. Let us know in the comments if there's something that you're excited about and you're screaming at your screen right now saying, guys, you're forgetting something really big and important. Let me know. And also don't forget to like the video because it makes the algorithms happy. And we got to keep these bots happy because they're about to be our masters. So I personally want to be keeping in good terms with the bots. So, Jonathan, I want to thank you for joining me today. And
pleasure being here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And I genuinely hope that this becomes a series. And obviously the next ones are going to be a little bit shorter because we're just going to do 1 month. But I thought it would be a nice idea to recap September before moving on to some of these very exciting releases for October. So again, thanks, man. Good talking to you as always. And I look forward to our quad discussion, which is coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it.
All right, man. Catch you later. Thanks. And for those of you at home, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.